Hi everyone, my name is Jazz and today I'm going to be doing a non-spoiler review for Catcher by Kieynan. This is a book I've been looking forward to for like a year. If you don't know who Kieynan is, she's actually a YouTuber. She has over 1 million subscribers at the moment. About last year, Kieynan announced that she was bringing out a fiction book. She sort of announced that she had been looking through her old laptop and found a story that she wrote for a creative writing class in high school, and she just sort of read it through and decided to completely rewrite it and actually publish it because she was so into it. And that is how Catcher came about. From what I've seen, from how she's spoken about it, and I've sort of been watching her journey through it with her her vlogs and everything, it's changed a lot since the first time it was written, because of the way she announced it, saying that she'd written it in high school and she was like bringing it out. That sort of worried me a little bit, but obviously she's like one of my favourite YouTubers and I really wanted to buy this book because I want to support her. Catcher is a fiction story and it's a fantasy slash utopia sort of deal, or dystopia I suppose, that follows a girl called Carson who, after a tragic accident that results in the death of her younger brother Axel when they were children, she has dreamt of the same boy every single night in her dreams, and he has his own sort of personality, and over time she actually has fallen in love with this boy. After her 18th birthday, another tragic accident happens in her family home, which means that Carson actually has to up and move to the big city, incidentally where she's always wanted to go to college, and she starts her new college where on the first day she runs into the boy that she has been dreaming of her entire life, or someone who looks very much like him. I really didn't know what to expect going into this. All I knew was that it was about a girl who dreamed of this boy and then he turns up in real life or something like that. I knew about the dream situation, but I must say I'm blown away. I've got to say right now, hand on heart, I wasn't looking to this book for the next like literary masterpiece. I never expected it to blow me away and be like, oh my gosh, this is the best book I've ever read. I purely wanted to buy it because I want to support Kieynan and I was really interested in the actual story, but I wasn't expecting it to be amazing, and I was incredibly happily surprised. Everything that I just said about the book, there's so much more than what like is at first glance, and as this is a non-spoiler review I won't be saying anything about the plot points or anything like that. If you want to see a spoiler review, if anyone else has read this, I'm not sure if anyone on BookTube has, but if you want to, then let me know. Thing is, it's literally just over 200 pages. It's really thin. It's so small, but there's so much packed into it. I was never bored. I read this in 2 sittings, which is quite, you know, impressive for me. I loved every second of it. Okay, I've given it a 4 out of 5 stars, which is a very high rating. Again, like I said, I didn't have high hopes for it. I really was just buying it because I wanted to support her and I was hoping that it would be a fun story, and it was so much more than what I expected. There is so many plot points going on that you just never expected her to, you know, to say. Because Kieylan's not, you know, she's been a writer for her whole life, but she's not like an author sort of thing, so I was worried that her characters would be slightly flat, and they didn't. They really surpassed my expectations. Carson and Gray, the 2 main characters, and even Carson's family members, her parents, her uncle, are just like incredible characters and they have a lot of layers to them. There's so much quality packed into such a short book. There's so much action packed into it as well. Like, you definitely, often in shorter books you sort of don't feel like there's that climax and then resolution situation, but this definitely had an intense climax right at the very end, and I believe there's going to be a sequel, so fingers crossed we find out what the hell happened at the end. There was so much of Kieylan in this book, and just like, obviously I don't know her in person, but just watching her videos you get a sense of her personality and things that she's interested in, and so much of her was in this book, right down to the way Carson talks and the way she thinks. And there's anxiety and panic attack representation in here, which is amazing for, you know, again, such a short book to pack so much in. Carson's personality is a lot more layered than I thought it would be. She does suffer with anxiety and panic attacks, obviously after the tragic loss of her brother, and it's very realistic representation from my experience. She put so much of herself into this book, including naming a cafe in the town after her own business, her own like line, Co's Cafe. Great touch. It was just such a nice little nod to her subscribers and the people that she knows are reading it that like know her, if that makes sense. So much happens, but it's not too heavy. Like, I just got through it and I was like so shocked that I loved it so much. A few things that I didn't like about it, but again, this is just like nitpicky stuff. Honestly, like, it really is a fantastic book. There's some things I didn't love. The writing style is very descriptive and dreamy. Obviously that sort of goes with the whole theme. But the writing style is very descriptive. It's quite lengthy at times, and there's a lot of adjectives going on, and sometimes that sort of hindered my reading experience a bit. But honestly, once you get used to it, it starts to flow a lot more. It was just difficult to get into at the start, but that took a few pages and then I was used to it and I was enjoying it so much. And there's really a whole sense of atmosphere to this book, that everything's happening in a dream world, which of course half of it is. I must say there were a few like spelling and grammar errors, but to be honest, this is, I think, a self-published book. I can't blame anyone for a few errors in a self-published book. Like, that is, you know, the fact that this is a whole coherent, edited, fantastically layered book that makes sense and is of really good quality says so much about Kieynan. She works so hard for what she does. One of the things that also troubled me with this is that I wasn't sure when or where this was supposed to be set. For quite a long while I was just sort of confused. Were we in the future of our world? Were we in a different world, like a fantasy or a utopia or a dystopia? Eventually you do realise that it is a sort of fantasy dystopian story with aspects of fantasy and sort of almost magical realism in there sometimes. I'm not sure where that part's going because it definitely only scratched the surface in this book, but I'm hoping the sequel will sort of clarify things further. Like I said, I loved all the characters. Carson was great, Gray was great, Carson's family were amazing. A few were slightly underdeveloped, such as Mina. I would have loved to see more of Mina, but then again, she's only in the book for like 2-3 scenes. She sort of does one thing that leads to the whole events of the rest of the book happening, and that's sort of it. So she is used as a bit of a plot point, but also I can see the friendship they have between them. They have good chemistry between Carson and Mina, and that's good enough for me, I suppose. Another thing that really makes this book stand out to me is the fact that at the start of every chapter, Kieynan has put songs to listen to while you're reading that chapter. And this was sort of weird at first. I didn't even notice it at first. At first I wasn't sure about the concept of having songs match the chapters, because like books are personal to everyone, and sometimes the songs that she likes might not be the same as songs that we like and that sort of thing. But honestly, I listened to every single one. It was a really interesting addition to have to sort of bring that story to life more, and even put you into the shoes of her while she was writing it. It's such a like personal thing to share music, especially music that inspires you in particular. And it was just really nice to see something like that, especially because it's self-published. She can put the names of artists and songs in here. The songs are great, they match the tone of the book perfectly, and it was just a really nice addition to have. There were a few cheesy one-liners in there. There are a few, you know, like comebacks or something like that was a bit like, a bit cringy, but it's a teen book. It is a YA book. It's focused on young adult characters, and to be honest, that's pretty realistic of what we are like at 18, 19, 20 years old. The description is amazing. Everything is so atmospheric, and it's very focused on elements and water, fire, air, like sort of, it just makes you feel very grounded, but also it keeps your head in the clouds. It's so different to anything I've read. It's got sci-fi, it's got dystopian, it's got fantasy aspects, it's got magical realism, you know, it's also a romance, it's also a teen fiction, just YA novel, and it has so many layers to it that I'm really, really glad I got to read it. That's all I have to say. I think this has been a bit all over the place, this review, but this is, I think, one of my first non-spoiler reviews that I've ever done. So let me know how I did. I'd like to just say as a final thought that I loved Catcher. I was so immersed in it and I had a great time reading it. It's so short and snappy, and I know I can just pick it up in the future and just fly through it again, and it will just take me back to that world. I cannot wait for the second book to come out. And to keep reading Kieylan's work, I really, really recommend you subscribe to her channel if you're interested, and pick up Catcher if you can, because it is a great book that I know no one's going to be talking about on BookTube. If you like this non-spoiler review, then please subscribe down below for more bookish content in the future. Also give it a like if you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching, and I guess I'll see you next time. Bye!
Oh,